NFC West Division matchup. We're breaking it down for you here on 95.7 The Game. The kickoff show, Evan Giddings, Lorenzo, Neal. Lo, I can't wait. Every single time we get off the air, I'm just looking forward to the next time we can get back on the air.
Especially after last week, the disappointing loss. We understood what was going to happen. We didn't want it to happen. We thought it wasn't going to happen. Sam I Am came on, took that year of being with the Niners and really grew his game. And you heard him in pregame talking about the things and experience that he learned being a Niner. I still didn't like it, Sam I Am, that you took care of the Niners. But, man, I'm excited because, hey, it's a new week. It's a new opportunity for the Niners to go out here and do what they need to do.
And, look, this is a game where injuries are the common theme between both sides. I mean, you got guys on IR. You got injuries. You got guys who are out. We'll break it all down in the impact as we move along again up until 125. But I do want to start things off with that game last week because the last time we saw the San Francisco 49ers, they, in my opinion, Lo, were a team that was expected to beat Minnesota. But I think it was because a lot of people, myself included, quite honestly, were overlooking what the Vikings could be. I overestimated the impact of their defense. A lot of players that are new this year. Brian Flores did a hell of a job. And Brock Purdy even admitted so, saying you got a crazy scheme after the game at midfield. And also the ability of one Sam Darnold to go deep. And especially in a league now where we're seeing a lot of quarterbacks checking it down, playing in front of the linebackers, playing in front of the secondaries. It was Sam Darnold that wasn't afraid to air it out last week.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, you got to ask Minnesota, are they happy they moved on from Kirk Cousins? It's good Kirk Cousins last week found a way to get a win. You look at Sam I Am. Sam's a guy that we talked about where he was at with the Jets. The cards were stacked against him. You move him over to Carolina, the cards are really stacked against him. He played pretty well, and they moved off of him. Sam Darnold's been in college, had a big arm, was a great player, and a guy that he was very sought after coming out. And just because he went to a team that didn't have the cupboards were bare, I thought it was unjust. And now when you look at Sam Darnold and the Niners, unbelievable, it was the best thing could have happened to this guy. And you and I, we alluded it, we talked about it prior to, hey, here's a guy that bye-bye Chase, not Chase, but you let a guy leave. The Niners, drafted in the first round, top 3 picks, the quarterback that ended up going to Dallas Cowboys.
Trey Lance.
Bye-bye Trey, bye, because you had a guy on the depth chart that Trey was no longer number 2. Trey, don't forget, that when Trey was here, it was like, well, if I'm number 2, I can sit, but if I'm going to be 3, I'm out. So I demand a trade. There's a reason why Shanahan had this guy at number 2 and moved Trey to 3. So kudos to Minnesota. They're playing good ball. You look at them right now. They're up 14-0. They're probably going to start off 3-0. Minnesota is a team with the receivers they have, the people that they have, the defense. This is a team that I don't know if people should be surprised, but the Niners haven't won there since, 1992?
Yep. 8 in a row. 8 in a row losses.
It's no excuse, but I'm going to tell you, the Niners, and in that game, it wasn't that the Niners played horrible. Minnesota played pretty well, too.
Well, the thing that was, to me, that stood out, and especially juxtaposed against week 1 against the Jets, that run defense for the Niners on Monday Night Football was unbelievable. They did not allow one of the best backs in football, Breece Hall, to get busy on the ground, whereas last week, the combination of Aaron Jones, Ty Chandler, those two guys racked up about 150 yards rushing, and it wasn't just Darnold. Yeah. That was a complementary, balanced offense we saw that was able to do largely what it wanted against the Niners, and that's got to be different today.
Yeah, no question. They created a new line of scrimmage. We talked about last week how the Niners guys, those Hargraves, those guys up front, created a new line of scrimmage and played on the Jets' other side of the ball. They pushed them back. You always tell your defense, push them back, create a new line of scrimmage, but you watched Minnesota. Minnesota did a great job double-teaming Hargrave, double-teaming those guys in the interior, and they made the secondary try to make more of the tackles. They got them past the first level. You even saw Fred Warner make some huge plays, a lot of huge plays on the back end. He made them 10, 15 yards down the field. They gashed the Niners up front, but here's the deal. The Niners gashed them too. What did the Niners have rushing last week? They had over 100. When you think about the way they ran the ball, both teams were evenly matched. It just came down to turnovers and who gave up the big plays. The Niners gave up more big plays than when they did.
They did, and that's why also the 23-17 score is a bit it doesn't really tell the whole story, because I thought that they were thoroughly beaten by Minnesota last week. The only player really that shone brightly for the Niners was Fred Warner. It was
Amazing.
that middle linebacker. He made some unbelievable plays.
The game would have been a lot uglier than that. But you have to realize, if you kick the field goal, Niners are down only by 3.
Yeah.
But if they catch the touchdown, it was a great play. The defender jumps up, he bats the ball down because our boy Giddings making that catch. He beat him on the route. The ball's there. So now it's a different ball game. And what we'll be having this conversation, we probably would, because Minnesota, just yesterday, they played better last week than the Niners, and they deserve to win that game.
Absolutely. And I think Fred Warner is a big reason why the game wasn't as more lopsided as it could have been. He's already got 3 fumbles forced this season, had the peanut punch at the goal line against Aaron Jones. I mean, that probably saved this game from being a 2-score affair down the stretch and basically just walking out of there heads hung. But now, like you're talking about, Lo, completely brand new slate, brand new game, brand new week. You wipe it, you wash it, rinse, repeat. Let's get out there in Los Angeles and turn our attention to the Rams, because this is a team that is also reeling. If we're looking around the NFL and looking at teams that are 0-2, all right, who's in panic mode? Who's still calm? Who's still collected? Whose season is still alive? The Rams, in many ways, I do think are going to present quite an effort to the Niners today, because they are a team, in my opinion, that are in panic mode. And it is as much about them being decimated as it is about they might not be as good as a lot of people thought they were going to be this year.
Yeah, and I think of the injuries. When you have 3 of your offensive line starting guys out, you have 2 of your receivers out. You're talking about 2 receivers that you can't guard. Let's be honest. I don't care who you have as a cornerback. I don't care who you have as a DB and safety. You can't Puka and friggin' your Cooper Kupp. You can't shut those guys down. You can try to contain them. They just too good. Kupp knows how to read routes. His coverage, his route running, his ability to get open. You can't slow those guys down. So you look at the Rams losing those guys and not having a dominant running game anyways. You're going to rely a lot on your passing game. But offensive lineman, when you have a quarterback that's not mobile, and now you're asking him to make more plays and do more things, it's tough to do.
Well, and you talk about those 2 wide receivers. I think Puka Nakua's rookie season, it was just an absolute sensation. Reset records for receiving yards, just blew receptions out of the water. This guy was immediately an impact day 1 player for the Rams, and he needed to be because Kupp was out. But a lot of people forget about Kupp's 1,947-yard season. Yeah. I mean, this guy had one of the most prolific years not too long ago in the history of the NFL, and the fact that they are missing both of them means you're going to see names like Demarcus Robinson, like Tutu Atwell, a lot of unknowns and guys that are certainly not up to the par of Kupp and Nakua. Doesn't mean you could take them lightly. However, you're absolutely right. What they're missing on the outside just quite simply cannot be replaced.
Yeah, and to add on that, Evan, the biggest thing about what those guys do, they control the game with their route running. See, you're going to have some other guys like you talked about that are fast. They can they're fast runners. They can run, stretch the field, but they don't control the game like Puka does. They don't control the game like Kupp does. And what do I mean by control the game? They understand a soft zone. They know how to push the outside shoulder. And, okay, I'm pushing the outside shoulder of the DB, and Ben, I'm going to snap inside so I know where the ball's going to be coming. Those little nuances of the game, those chain movers that's going to keep the chain and keep the offense on the field. That's what Puka and that's what Kupp, that's what they bring to the offense. That's what they bring to your quarterback Stafford, who's not necessarily that mobile, but that's what they gave Stafford, that way out. The guy that Stafford knows that these guys, they're going to create a mismatch. Even if there's the DB can cover them, doing those things, they understand what to do in those in those situations. So I think that is the biggest thing this Rams are going to be missing. And you just can't replace that. I don't care who you can't replace that.
No, and if you're Matthew Stafford, when I watch him play with those 2 receivers, those are guys that help him play like he's got answers to the test.
Sure.
Because he's 36 years old. He's been in this league for a long time. He's seen every single defense they can throw at him. You know, the 2 high safeties that everyone's making a big deal about this week around the NFL. He's seen those his entire career. He's beat them multiple times en route, of course, to a Super Bowl in 2021. But when he doesn't have those players, along with an offensive line that is a little lacking as far as missing those 3 starters that you mentioned, I do wonder how much can be done by this singular player. And on the opposite side,
going to get some turnovers.
Brock Purdy's also got a tall task as well.
Oh, no question. But we'll get there. But without a doubt, if you can't get 2 turnovers today, something's going on your defense. Because you got to, Stafford's going to throw the ball to where he thinks guys are going to be, because that's the type of quarterback
the Niners defense.
The Niners defense. Because Stafford's going to throw the ball to places where he thinks his receivers are. And those young guys, they just don't understand necessarily those zones, how to read it out and do those things. You're going to have some opportunities, because you know that the Rams doesn't have necessarily a great running game, and they're not a team that's going to go out and just pound the ball, and the Niners should win that battle up front. You're going to have, Stafford's going to have to throw the ball 40 times. And you're talking about, hey, what about the Niners? You're like, hey, yeah, our quarterback, the Niners quarterback, is he going to struggle because Debo, and you don't have, hey, Kittle down the middle, you don't have Kittle. But the biggest thing, the difference is you have a running game still. The Niners still can line up and pound the ball. And by the way, Ayuk, Ayuk, please stand up. I think this guy's going to be big. Look for them to move Ayuk around a little bit today. They're going to target this guy. He's going to have an opportunity today to make his money.
Well, and you mentioned the Rams running game. To me, that was the most glaring part about the first 2 weeks from them offensively, even before they got hit with as many injuries as they have. Against the Lions, Kyren Williams, largely ineffective. Last week against the Cardinals, even before Kupp went down right before the half, walked out of there in a boot with an ankle injury. Kyren Williams, they could not establish the run. And to me, that is their primary chance to get into this game to play against the Niners, because that is one area where the Niners defense, in my opinion, has been a little lacking, not just this year, but also in recent memory. And so the fact that the Rams have not been able to establish the run against a Cardinals team that, look, they're young, they're up and coming. Jonathan Gannon's a defensive-minded head coach. Who knows what their season is going to become. But the fact that they were unable to put the ball on the ground and then fell behind so early against the Cardinals, they have to, in order to stay in this game, they got to stay ahead of the chains. And if you're the Niners, I honestly expect someone like Nick Sorensen, the brain trust with Brandon Staley now, the eyes in the sky. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of people in the box and just basically try and force Stafford, to your point, Lo, to put the ball in the air 40 times. Because if they're able to take Kyren Williams away, if they're able to win in the trenches and at the line of scrimmage, I understand why this line is minus 6.5 points. Everyone expects the Niners to be forceful and be physical.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm going to tell you right now, the Niners, you and I, we saw it, and you talked about it in the beginning of the show when we went back and talked about what happened last week against a Minnesota team. You got embarrassed. You got embarrassed on the offensive. You got embarrassed on the defensive side of the ball. You let them run the ball all over you, push you up and down the field. The Niners front four has to be licking their chops and say, we got to stop the bleeding. We have to stop this run game. If we're going to go out here and play dominant football, it's shut down the run and force these receivers to beat you, but force them to beat you playing some type of zone, because now these receivers have to be able to read on the way out. Yeah, you can play 8-9 guys in the box if you're playing against a good running team. I don't think this is a great running team. I think that you do sit back and play some zone, because when you're playing zone, that you don't have enough time. You can't just run the ball down the field when you're playing zone. You can't just say, the receivers don't have time, because they got to run through zones and the pressure will get there. So now they got to read. They got to sit down. They got to sit in tough situations. So you make these receivers play football, and I don't know if they have that on their staff. I don't know if they have those type of receivers that can do that on a consistent basis if the Niners can give them different looks defensively.
Yeah, I think with the state of these rosters, as far as the offenses, relatively comparable, right? You got Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua out, 3 offensive linemen for the Rams, Jonah Jackson, their left guard, Joe Noteboom, the right tackle, and then Connor McDermott, also a tackle, is out for this game. But you look at the Niners, they're missing 3 members of the Avengers. They're missing Captain America. They're missing Thor. They're missing Iron Man. You're missing Christian McCaffrey. You're missing Deebo Samuel. And now George Kittle, the latest to hit the injury report. He is going to be out with a hamstring after being doubtful, not practicing on Friday. So how is Brock Purdy, similar to Matthew Stafford, how is he going to play? Because it's funny, we've been thinking about, the offense is maybe a little bit behind to begin the season. There hasn't been as many prolific passing games, just league-wide. Well, Brock Purdy right now is leading the league in passing. He's got 550 yards. This is a guy that's been forced to air it out a little more than I think people have given him credit for. But now he's got to do it without 2 of his primary pass catchers, in addition, of course, to the safety blanket number 23.
Yeah, there's a guy that I love on this team, and they don't talk about it enough. They don't talk about that position enough. And you know where I'm going. You know where I'm going. There's going to be a guy, number 44 in your program and number 1 in your heart. That's that guy. Juszczyk, baby. Juszczyk. Look for the juice to be loose today. The juice is loose, baby. Juszczyk's going to get loose. Look for this guy to have 4 or 5 catches. Look for him to have sneak in there and get a couple runs because he's deceptive. He can get open. He knows how to beat coverage. You look for a little couple wheel routes. Juszczyk, Cal Juszczyk in this game, I think he's going to be that extra tight end, that extra receiver that you need. But yeah, Brandon Ayuk has got to play, and he's got to play big today because, yes, you're missing the 3. You're missing the McCaffrey, who's the best running back, I think, receiver out of the backfield, and you're missing Deebo Samuel. We know what Deebo can do, and you're missing one of the best tight ends in George Kittle. We're going to see Mr. Brock implement some other things. Look for him to run the ball, pound the ball, but look for other guys to step up, other tight ends to play big, and yeah, juice will be big today.
Well, I'm glad you singled in on Kyle Juszczyk because, look, is he going to be the difference in this football game? In my opinion, he shouldn't have to be because the Niners, in my opinion, are a better football team as currently constructed than the Los Angeles Rams. But players that we don't, I think, always give enough credit to. And as far as what Kyle Juszczyk does today, I think he is going to be filling in a little bit more for George Kittle as far as the blocking that we don't often see from Kittle because this, to me, would be a game that George Kittle would dominate. This would be the week that you would want him in and that he would be able to just light up the stat sheet, similar to how he did last year during the 3-game stretch that Deebo Samuel missed. Then the Niners lost those games, but George Kittle himself was prolific in the passing game. Now, Juszczyk. Okay, we are going to see where Kyle Shanahan's creativity comes into play because he's going to have to rely on perhaps a Jacob Cowing. He's going to have to rely on maybe an Eric Sober, the backup tight end. He might have to rely on Jake Tonjes. And I'm curious to see how the Niners, if they go to these jumbo package formations where Kyle Juszczyk is being used primarily as a blocker, or if he might be even, kind of your wide receiver 3 here today. Do you put him in the slot? Do you bring him out of the backfield on those Texas routes? Do you swing him to the flat? How does Brock Purdy use Kyle Juszczyk? Because the one thing, Lo, that I think Purdy's really been missing with McCaffrey being out and then Deebo going down is the fact that the Niners were a team that could beat you from the line of scrimmage and backwards. Those were the yak players. Those were guys that when they got the ball, they were able to move it up the field as quickly as anybody, and it was able to basically get out of his hands in under 2 seconds. He doesn't have that as much anymore. And so I haven't seen Brock Purdy on those quick-hitting slant routes, on those screen passes, on those swings out of the backfield. That might be a situation today where Jordan Mason isn't the pass catcher. He's a bruiser. He gets north-south with the best of them, but he's not going to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield. I wonder if we see more of that, and specifically from Kyle Juszczyk.
Yeah, I think you will, but the guy you're talking about, if you want to see Kyle Juszczyk be what I know that he can be and be that pass catcher that you're talking about, then it's going to talk with that guy you just mentioned, Mason. It's going to start with the running back. And he's been doing a hell of a job. 2 games, over 100 yards, rushing the ball. If he's running the ball today with the effectiveness that we think and what we've seen the last 2 weeks with the dominance, the way that he's getting downhill, Juszczyk has 5 catches because if you're running that way, look for him to be in that 2-back. Now you got Juszczyk blocking the linebackers. The linebackers are going to have to come up and fill because if you let Mason, you let 24 get going and get his shoulder pads and go north and south and get downhill, he's a headache. He's a chain mover. This guy will spring some necks. You watch the way he runs. So if Juszczyk is in 2-back and they're running and he's the point of attack and you're moving and linebackers and safeties have to come up to shut down the run, now Juszczyk is going like he's going to block, and all of a sudden he bluffs and give him a fake shoulder. Now he's down the field. Juszczyk's a good route runner. He has deceptive speed. I think that he has a big game, but it's all going to be predicated on Jordan Mason if they can continue this dominant run game.
And it always comes down to what, like the Kyle Shanahan game script, right? Because I think in the first half against Minnesota, though they were trailing, the game script was still in their favor. Like I looked at Jordan Mason, he had 13 carries for 72 yards in the first half against Minnesota. In the second half, 7 carries for 28 yards. Now, that's a decent chunk of change per pop. But as far as what we're expecting from Mason as a bell cow guy, I know 20 carries might sound like a lot, but in this offense, I mean, they ran the ball over 40 times against the Jets. They didn't even get to 30 against the Minnesota Vikings because in the second half they had to throw. They were playing from behind. If they're able to use Mason like we both believe that he can be, because this guy is as ready as ever to take on the workload of an RB1, of a bell cow back. In my opinion, it does need to be north of 20. And it's going to be because the running game, look, Kyle Shanahan always tends to stick with a singular back. It hasn't been as much by committee this season and in the previous seasons when they've had McCaffrey. Jordan Mason is their guy. And so while it might seem like they're running him into the ground, to me, they got to run him to victory because in order to move above 500, I do think it starts with their running game.
No question.
And it does start with Jordan Mason.
No question. Mason has got to be the MVP today. Mm-hmm. It's not got to be your quarterback because he don't necessarily has the weapons today. You got your big threes not playing. So you don't necessarily have to do it Purdy. Purdy is not necessarily going to have to do it by air. Now, Kenny, yes. It's the other guys. If you throw for 200 yards today, but you have 150 yards rushing, you win this game. I think this is a Jordan Mason game. I know I said, hey, don't want a guy touch the ball 20 times, but today, this is a time that he might carry the ball 35 times. Today's the day that he's going to get 30, but you're going to run the ball 40 times. Juszczyk's going to get 3 to 5 carries, guarantee it. You're going to have to use your backup running back and saying, look, all this week, I don't think Jordan Mason probably run the ball a lot this week. You wanted to make sure, get this guy ready. You let those other guys. This is going to see who is the backup, who are those guys. That's what it was about this week. It was about the touches mentally. And that's what Kyle Shanahan and this coaching staff and the running back coach, that's what they did this week. It was about telling these other guys, you better be ready. Just like all week, how they did with Mason with the Jets, saying, hey, McCaffrey may not be ready to go. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to step up. And Mason stepped up. Now we're going to see if they have the ability to get that second and third string running back ready to step up because this is going to have to happen for the Niners to have success today.
Well, and also, you look at this game, you look at this matchup, this is in many ways a get-right week for the Niners. Week 3 against a division opponent, your first time you're facing the NFC West this season. You get the Rams in a position where they're compromised. You're banged up too, no doubt about it. But this is a Rams team that was absolutely just, there was an avalanche in Arizona last week. Kyler Murray decimated them through the air, and he was able to beat them deep. While the Niners do have one deep threat in Brandon Ayuk, I do think that this is a game that they can just own on the ground. It might not be pretty,
right,
but winning ugly is still winning football. And that's where I think the Niners' identity this season needs to move towards. Last year, they were pretty. That was an offense that was putting up 30 points a game.
Right.
Because of the injuries this season, I'm not sure they're going to be able to do that. And though as a viewer, as an audience member, that might look different. They might not look like the Niners team we're accustomed to. To me, this is a game that can help them move back towards what they were before Brock Purdy, which was a defensive-minded team that put the ball on the ground, took care of time of possession, won the turnover battle, and at the end of the game, it didn't matter how many, but they had more points on the other side. That's got to be this, in my opinion, that has to be where this team moves towards.
Right. This game today is about the other guys, the others, because we already know, Sam, you already know the quarterbacks in this situation. You got Brock Purdy, and you're going against a guy Stafford, who's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. So you got two of these guys. Those are the two stars. But now, who's the other guys? When you think about the Rams, don't have two of their big-time receivers. Who's the other guys? The Niners don't have Debo, don't have Kittle, don't have McCaffrey, don't have those stars. Brandon Ayuk is the only reason right now is he a star because everyone talked about the whole offseason. Brandon Ayuk got more press this offseason than he's ever got. And what was that about? A contract, about getting more money. So now this game is not about stars. Nick Bosa injured, not sure how much he's going to play. Are they going to play? So who are the guys? This game is about the other guys, the no names necessarily offensively, the weapons. Are they going to make the plays? And that's what's going to come. And you have to err on the side of caution to say, is it the Niners or is it the Rams? And I think when you look at it like that, I think the other guys on the Niners are better than the Rams.
Well, and the Niners are also a bit more fortunate that the only player that's on IR right now is McCaffrey. Debo is a bit banged up with a calf strain. George Kittle has a hammy, but those aren't season-ending injuries. And speaking of season-ending injuries, they get a guy who had one last year because the Niners had a lot of health. They had a lot of wealth last season, but Talanoa Hufanga did go down with an ACL. He's expected to play today against the Los Angeles Rams, so they do welcome a member of their secondary and a former first-team All-Pro back to the fold.
Right. And you know what this guy does. Hufanga can come play down in the box. He knows how to read coverages. The guy knows he's sneaky. He knows how to find a way to be around the ball. He's a ball hawk. Finds a way to get you a pick here and there. I love what he brings to the table. I want to see what the hell they ease him back. And now what that does for your nickel and dime personnel, you can bring other guys on the field. So now you have your leader in the secondary, and he is the leader in the secondary. Now you have him back. You already have your first level guy in Bosa, second level guy in we know in Fred Warner, and now you Fonga on the third level. So now you have all three of your captains, all three of your leaders on all three levels back playing football. So this is huge for the Niners to get Fonga back.
Well, and Nick Bosa, who was questionable this week with a rib injury, is also expected to play. Charvarius Ward the same as well. He was limited in practice this week, but they expect to be about as 100% as possible on the defensive side of the football. The only guy now out for them is Dre Greenlaw as far as big boys on that side of the ball. Offensively, Debo, McCaffrey, Kittle all out. For the Los Angeles Rams, it's Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, along with 3 offensive linemen starting that are out for them. And when we come back, Lo, I do want to dig into the quarterback matchup. And also further ahead, we'll look at, I think, kind of the chess masters in this game, which is Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan. Also want to go around the league. A lot to dig into as we move forward here on the Kickoff Show presented by Habas Law. If you've been wrong, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. We got our biggest disappointments, our surprises, who's in the panic zone, who's looking calm, cool, collected around the NFL, and as it relates to the San Francisco 49ers who are taking on the Los Angeles Rams, 125 kick, and we are bringing it right here on 95.7 The Game. Evan Giddings, Lorenzo, Neal. We'll be back after this.
Joe Shasky here, and I got to tell you, UA Local 38, it isn't just a union. To me, it is family. My dad, my uncles, my brother, they've all been a part of Local 38.
Rams going head-to-head. One team is going to be above 500, I think, later on today, and we'll give you the keys as we move along to the 49ers' victory. I think also, Lo, we were just kind of discussing during the break as it relates to the Niners, and to kind of extrapolate and take it league-wide before we dig into the quarterbacks, the head coaches, the keys, the X's, the O's. Looking around the rest of the NFL, it does appear to me, some of the themes that I've seen, number one, managing games has been more important than ever because self-inflicted wounds are the reason why a couple of teams are looking at 0-2 starts.
Right.
Injuries have been prevalent across the NFL, and of course, they've infected both of these teams that we're going to talk about in the 49ers and the Rams. But also, some kind of head-scratching decisions from this offseason have dictated the start of a few team seasons. But what do you think has been, kind of the, I don't know about boneheaded, but the most puzzling, the most puzzling choice this offseason?
I think it's obvious to me when you think about a quarterback position. Every time we talk about the Niners, what position pops up and they say, did they have their guy? And that's the quarterback position. You think about last year, you had a guy, Trey, that you've drafted in the top 5 picks, and you trade him away because you had a guy by the name of Sam Darnold come in and outperform him that moved this guy that was a top 5 pick, moved him to number 3. And then just last week, Sam Darnold, offseason, he goes to Minnesota and beats the Niners and praised the Niners for helping him become a better student of the game, talked about how his study habit is, talked about how he just watched film and didn't know how to really watch film, but the way Purdy got him to watch film, talked about the Niners organization, what they did for his career. And you saw the dividends pay off. Now, when you ask that question, that's why I'm saying, to me, a head scratcher, when you look at the Tennessee Titans and you think about Will Levis, big, strong, physical quarterback, why the hell would you trade away Malik Williams and you see what he's doing with Green Bay? Actually, he goes to Green Bay and he's got them 2-0 since he's starting quarterback. Look what he's doing. He's playing against the Titans today and they're kicking the Titans' butt with the guy who could have been on the Titans. Why do you make that trade? Why do you let a guy leave your facility and trade a guy of that caliber when you don't have a good number one in the first place? You don't have a proven commodity at number one in your Tennessee Titans with a decent running game, decent defense. You could be 2-0, but you don't have the right trigger man. That's the biggest head scratcher to me.
And to piggyback off of that, I think it's this expectation of rookie quarterbacks to come in and immediately change your franchise. Because there's been a few that have done it. Don't get me wrong. C.J. Stroud, obviously, last year. I think he's down right now currently, but he had a fantastic rookie season. Led his team to the postseason. They expect big things in Houston this year. Justin Herbert, from day one, you could tell this guy was a dude. There are rookie quarterbacks that have stepped in the first game, oh, we got one. But that's not how it generally goes. To me, those are outliers. Those are exceptions to the rule. Because through a couple of weeks, we have not seen yet a passing touchdown from a single rookie quarterback taken in the first round that have started. And last year, to me, to answer the question about the most puzzling choice, to me, it is the Panthers throwing all of their investment into Bryce Young. And I don't even mind moving off of him after 2 weeks because he clearly looked overwhelmed. But to have the expectation that this was going to be a guy that was going to come in and turn you from worst to first, that to me, they were totally over their skis. They put the cart before the horse, and now they're in a position where they have a head coach who is probably fighting for his life because he saw a guy get fired after 11 games last year, and now they don't know where they're going at the quarterback position. They're probably going to have to reset at the end of this year.
Wow. Trusting
rookie quarterbacks to step in and be the saviors for your franchise without a structured support system around them, I don't see it. It can't happen.
Man, that is a great pick because when you think about the Carolina Panthers and you look at how their franchise and how disenfranchised they are, why the hell would you put this type of investment in a quarterback and not have a backup quarterback or not have a guy that has been in this league that's been a starter? And we talked about it earlier. You looked at Minnesota. Even though they drafted a rookie quarterback and was going to be the starter, you had a guy like Sam Darnold behind him. You had a guy that's waiting in the wings that has played in this league, that's a veteran type of guy. That's what you need to do. When you have a rookie quarterback and you have this much expectations and they're that high for that guy, Make sure you have a Jimmy G in wings. Make sure Jimmy G is starting. So when you get a quarterback, too many franchises say, okay, here he is. He's the face of the franchise. I'm sticking him out there. I don't care. Instead of saying, no, our goal is to have this guy start starting after this season, or he's going to start him at 5 games. We're going to start this guy 6 weeks into the season, or have something 8 weeks into the season, or saying, hey, look, for the first 3 weeks, I'm letting my veteran quarterback start. If he wins, we let him play. If he starts to lose and falter, then you throw the young guy in there. But I just think the way that they go about just saying, here's this young guy, just throw him in there, throw him to the wolves, it can shoot them. It can have these guys shook up. Mm-hmm. It can have them not become a professional, because if you look at Carolina, like you alluded to, here's a guy that looks like a deer in the headlights. He doesn't feel comfortable. He doesn't look poised. He's throwing the ball to the other team. You look at his face, you look at his body structure, you look at the way that he comes off the sideline, you watch his whole personality. Guess what? It becomes infectious, and the whole team, the Carolina Panthers team, is already defeated before any game starts because they don't believe in their trigger man.
Well, and especially the structure around them, the situation, I know we make a lot about it. We talked about the situation between Purdy and Darnold last week, right? Darnold gets drafted to a Jets organization that's dysfunctional. Yep. He's now on his 4th team in 7 seasons, the most by any young quarterback ever. Meanwhile, Brock Purdy is drafted into a good situation and then uses his strengths to elevate this offense. And I'm glad that Stephen Palomo on the YouTube chat brought this up, because it felt like that first game against Miami, Purdy was ready. But he also had a support system to rely on and people to basically put him in positions to succeed and utilize his skill set. That was not going to happen in Carolina. And to your point, I'm just puzzled why a lot of these teams don't have a veteran in place. Now, they have Andy Dalton this season, but last season it was all about Bryce. It was do or die. It was feast or famine, sink or swim. And that to me is just, it's unreasonable to ask a player like that. And to take your point for Will Levis, I'll take it a step further. The fact that they traded Malik Willis is probably the reason why they're 0-2 right now instead of 2-0, because the one thing that Willis can do is take care of the football. And that's where Brock Purdy, to me, has not been given enough credit. Even though last week he had some turnovers, and this week he might have a turnover, he generally does a great job of not putting the ball in harm's way. He takes calculated risks, and that's where Brock Purdy upstairs is leaps and bounds ahead of some guys who are physically more talented than he is.
And I think that's where I think the Niners as an organization doesn't get enough credit. Brock Purdy, we understand he can come back, and he's shown you he can win games when he's down. But when you have to do that week in and week out, I look at our team, you and I, we talk about it. You from down there in San Diego, and you talk about the Chargers, and we like to see those guys, and at times they play well, at times they don't. But you think about a guy who's Justin threw for over 4,000 yards when you're close to 5,000 yards. Did that necessarily mean they win?
Nope.
See, when you have a quarterback that has to go out week in and week out and go win you games, it puts a lot of undue and unjust pressure on them. When you have a team that can run the ball and play from in front and do those things, and now the quarterback can just play and throw and stay within himself, they have way more success. And that's what the Niners have done. They built a team that Purdy doesn't have to go out and just throw it all over the park. Can he do it? Yes. But you're not in that situation that he has to be so great week in and week out. And that's why when they said, oh, well, give me, when you look at the Chargers quarterback, Herbert, bigger, stronger, fast, all those things. But why is Purdy win more? Because he has a better team. He doesn't have to go out and go and do what Herbert has to do. And so that's what happens to a lot of these quarterbacks. They believe so much in these quarterbacks that they put them in a situation where they can't win. They can throw for 5,000 yards, 4,000 yards, but they're not winning Super Bowls, and they're not winning because too much is dependent on them, a la the Buffalo Bills. When you look at the Niners, they're more of a balanced football team that your quarterback doesn't have to be the guy to be all, stop all, and that's if you don't have him, you're not winning any ball games. That's what I love about the Niners, the way that this organization has built this team.
Well, and John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have built a fantastic roster around Brock Purdy. There's no doubt about that. Though they're facing the injuries this week of obviously Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, when they are whole, they are as talented as any football team in the league. But where Brock Purdy, to me, has been able to I don't know, kind of quietly establish himself is that he understands the flow of the game. He knows what he needs to do in order to win on a given week, and that's something that is going to be increasingly more difficult without as many weapons on the offensive side of the ball. But I also think that he's somebody that is willing to trust the process in regards to putting the ball on the ground, giving it to Mason, and letting that defense against a decimated Los Angeles Rams offense, letting that defense also put him in advantageous positions.
Yeah, and that's the thing of today. We get to see a lot about Brock Purdy, I think, Evan, is to see what he's about. Mm-hmm. Because today is a day that he can go out and say, I got to go throw for 500 yards. I'm going to have to carry. I don't have all these guys here. I want to see how he managed the game. I want to see how Brock gets up there and says, okay, look, this is, hey, 1st and 10. Hey, I'm doing this play action. I know I got the deep shot. If it's open, I'm going to take it, but I'm not going to take chances. Okay, I got this check down here. I'm just going to move. Now I'm going to get this thing in 2nd and manageable, 2nd and 2, 2nd and 3. Now we can run our pass. I want to see how he goes out here and manage the game to say, look, I know that I'm not going to be so aggressive that I'm going to lose this game for this team because I know I don't have the big time weapons that I usually have. So how am I going to go out and make my defense feel comfortable? How am I going to go out here in time of possession, have drives, drive the length of the field, eat up clock, put your defense in good position because you want your defense fresh today. You can't be 3 and out. You have to make sure that you're efficient today. I want to see how efficient Brock is going to be with the ball. I want to see how he's going to limit because he's going to turn the ball over. He doesn't have a lot of weapons today. He's going to I want to see how he doesn't take those chances, doesn't turn over the ball, keep the ball in his hand, say, hey, look, I'm going to punt the ball because I know our defense is I'm going to play mistake-free football. I want to see Brock today manage a game from that distance because of the fact you are down a bunch of weapons.
That's Lorenzo, Neal. My name is Evan Giddings. This is the kickoff show taking you up until 1:25, Niners, Rams, Week 3, SoFi Stadium. I'm glad you brought up that concept for Purdy because I think a lot of people are assuming that, all right, in these next few weeks and specifically today, like Purdy's going to have to do everything. Purdy's got to prove that he's worth $50 million. Purdy's got to prove that he's worth $60 million. He's got to prove that he's the number one quarterback and that he can lead this team without, the Avengers. I don't necessarily think he needs to do that. I think what he needs to do is what we oftentimes see someone like Mahomes or Allen or this year someone like Justin Herbert do. Like if I told you that Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen lead the league in percentage of passes at or behind the line of scrimmage, you might tell me I'm crazy. Because those are guys with big arms. Those are guys that we were accustomed to seeing the highlights on Twitter, on Instagram, going up top, throwing deep, using guys with speed, beating over the top of the safeties. No, those are guys that methodically know how to move the ball down the field, and then with a risk-reward understanding, then they can take chances. And that's where I think Purdy in this game, the only way the Rams, to me, Lo, are able to beat the Niners today is if Purdy gives them a couple cookies. If someone puts the ball on the ground, if there are turnovers, if there's self-inflicted wounds, if there's penalties. If the Niners play disciplined football today, they are pound for pound good enough to walk into that building, which should, by the way, be filled with Niners fans, and beat the Rams. And so if I'm looking at Brock Purdy and what he supposedly has to prove, I think he has to prove just how well he understands what he needs to do to win a football game, and he's done nothing but prove that to me so far.
Yeah, and that's what I alluded to earlier. That is going to be the game today. How he manages this football game because of the fact he doesn't have all the weapons. What is Brock Purdy going to do to limit the mistakes, to limit the turnover battle, to say, look, I'm not going to just throw the ball, and that's where the coach is going to have to temper down. We watched that Charger game, and you watch them. They're playing against the Steelers. It's a team, two teams are evenly matched. And once you get away from the run, and now you say, I'm going to ask my quarterback to throw the ball 40, 50 times and do those things, there's a lot of bad things happen on throws. The ball can be tipped. You can get a sack. You can get it tipped. You can get an interception. You can have holding. It's a lot of things can go wrong on passing plays when you are forced just to throw the ball. That's why I think today is such a big running game day for the Niners. They have to run the ball. They have to be productive because then if you're having success running the ball, now your play action, those high percentage pass plays will be even more effective because you have success running the ball. When defenses understand you're going to throw the ball, they can pin their ears back. Now they are not thinking about the run. They're thinking about getting back there and sacking the quarterback because all you're doing is passing the ball.
Well, and also I think we can take some things away from other games that we've watched from young quarterbacks and understanding that they have not managed the situations very well. I mean, just take a look at the game today between the Colts and the Bears, a game that you like Indian. Anthony Richardson threw a red zone interception on the opening drive, his 5th INT of the year. That's a big reason why the Colts right now are 0-2. The Bears have not got a touchdown this season for Caleb Williams, but they've got turnovers, who also has a pick in this game. That's a situation where, look, whoever in that game turns the ball over less is probably going to win. And with the Rams and the Niners having similar offensive situations, missing weapons, guys being out, players being asked to step up, it does, to me, come down to the turnover battle and basically trusting that your defense, though they can't technically score, I guess on a potential pick six or scoop and score, they can help you win this football game. They're not a team that's going to kick. They're not a side of the ball that kicks field goals. They don't throw the ball. They don't run the ball, but they will keep you where you need to be, which is ahead of the chains, ahead of the sticks, and ahead of a Rams team that is compromised at this point of the season. You might as well say that this is a great time to catch the Rams because a lot of people feel like they're a talented group, but not as currently constructed. And so if Sean McVay is going to find a way to do anything offensively, as far as play calling, dialing things up for Matthew Stafford, to me, it's going to be because the Niners let him do that in this game.
Yeah, and also, man, I talk about it all the time, and people don't take it. They don't take it. They take it with a grain of salt, and they're like, okay, whatever. I say offense counts as a third of the game, defense counts as a third of the game, but special teams. Mm-hmm. Special teams is premium today. And when you watch football games, if you have the defense that the Niners and we believe they have, this comes down to field position. If you throw them first, second, third down, and all of a sudden you're punting from your own 10-yard line and you get a punt out to the 50, and that team gets one first down, they're in field goal range. If you pass first, second, and third down, and all of a sudden now you're punting the ball and ball's on plus side or negative side at the 40, now they get 2 first downs, and now they punt the ball. Now your field position, you get the ball back, you're still inside your 10. Field position. This today, when your offenses are not necessarily high power because of the injuries or the lack of talent right now, it's field position. It's turnovers. It's how are you going to make some big plays on special teams? How are you going to get a punt return? Everyone block up their guy, and they got to get, we got to change the field position by special teams. Special teams today, when you have an injured teams, when you have a teams that are both equally matched, it comes down friggin' to special teams. How are you going to change field positions and turnovers? If you get turnovers on special teams, if you flip the field and you get and flip the field, that's how you win ball games today. This is what I'm telling you. Today is a big opportunity for special teams.
It is. And look, the Niners are a team that right now are missing 3 of their top 4 or 5 weapons. It also does place a lot of pressure on Brandon Ayuk.
Field position.
Well, but I was going to say, before we get into Ayuk, I also want to wrap up the conversation about these offseason choices, because as it relates to this season, we've seen the Niners the past 2 years make a couple of big splash trades, right? 2 years ago, obviously, Christian McCaffrey, that changed the trajectory of their season.
Big time.
Arguably changed the trajectory of their franchise.
Trade of the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Traded a century.
Certainly so. I mean, they gave up a second round, a third, which they ended up getting back because it was a compensatory pick,
right,
and a 5th.
And you got to the but think about what that yields you. Think about what your team,
you got
by getting McCaffrey,
800 touches out of that trade.
Thank you. And you got to a Super Bowl out of that trade. So that trade for a second round pick for a guy who's the best running back in the league at the time, and you only gave up a second round for him, and you got that one back? What trade have you seen that has yielded that for a team during the season? What trade have you seen? Think about that's comparable to that.
Biggest mid-season trades? None that have been able to benefit a team as
Maybe
immediately as Christian McCaffrey has.
I understand off-season doing free agency, yes, but I'm talking about during the season and the ROI, the return on investment.
Not in the immediate like that. I mean, maybe someone like Jalen Ramsey for the Rams, but that was also something that happened. Like, they won the Super Bowl after they got traded for, not the same season. So, I honestly, that's a great one.
That's a great trade. No, it wasn't a stump. It was just it's to make you think. At least the question is going to make you think, because it's a lot of guys that's been traded. But did they get the ROI, the return on investment? Mm-hmm. Do you have a guy like McCaffrey? And if he's not injured this year, it would even be more. This trade would even look even larger. So when you think about what he was able to do and what this Niners team has done, they find a way. And is it something that you look at this year to say, with the injuries you have, is it time to possibly make a trade? Or if you're the Niners, or do you pick up the phone? Do you think they're even looking right now?
Well, I think they're always looking, because also last year, though it wasn't as impactful as Christian McCaffrey, they went out and got Chase Young. They added some defensive line depth, and to be fair, Chase Young was not, I think, what everyone expected, but he played well in the Super Bowl. He had a big game in the biggest game.
Yeah, the biggest game of his year.
And now he's on his way. So, I do think the Niners will make a trade this year, but the question would be where and what and why, because the Niners, unlike last season, have not had the wealth of health. They're a team that has had to rely more so on their depth than ever. We're going to see backup tight ends in this game. We're going to see third and fourth wide receivers in this game. We're going to see backup running backs in this game. And it just kind of had you thinking, and I think it's a great question, if the Niners are to address a specific position, where do you think that they would look for or look to go to on the trade market?
Yeah, I think if you're the Niners, you always can get better in the trenches. Is it a guard? Is it another guy in the trenches that can, on defense, your defensive side of the ball, to bring more depth, to spare? Is it a pass rusher, edge rusher to spare Bosa because of injuries? I think that you look at it, and I think if I'm trying to make that trade, if I am going to do that trade, I look at the quarterback position. I think when you think about where the Niners is with their quarterbacks, you have a guy in Dobbins who can win. You look at Dobbins in Tennessee right now, or Tennessee better off? Without a doubt. You look at the two guys they have at this quarterback position, and if you're the Niners, you're saying, hey, we got to go play better. We need to get deeper in the playoffs. Who is it? I think that you can look at the quarterback position and see what the worth, see what the value is. Is there some guys out there that you can say, we can trade this guy, a quarterback, and get another defensive lineman or possibly an offensive lineman? I think the Niners should be looking.
To me, it's somebody that fits into what they do offensively. You can always add, for sure. I mean, offensive line depth is something they lack. Even when they've had good defensive lines, they've been willing to dip into that pool and go get more pass rushers. Even a team like the Eagles a couple of years ago did that up front when they made a Super Bowl run with someone like, my guy from Portland who stepped on Aaron Rodgers, the Detroit line, Ndamukong Suh, pardon me. Yeah, but to me, I'm looking at, actually, it's the running back position, but it's someone that is versatile. So two names that I'm thinking about on teams that are, maybe looking to not necessarily rebuild, but they don't have postseason aspirations. The Tennessee Titans, Tony Pollard.
Right.
And Washington, because they've been also made trades Washington before, Austin Eckler. I think those are two veteran, flexible, hybrid running backs that can give you added depth if someone like Mason has to continue to be RB1, or even Christian McCaffrey comes back. Those are two players that are great pass catchers, that are decent runners, but are also old enough that I think you could get them for relatively cheap. They don't cost a whole lot of money. The Niners have cap space this year. So if I'm thinking about a position, right now the running back room is something that I think needs more depth. And those are also players to me that fit into what the Niners might like to do. So Eckler and Pollard will be my two targets.
You know what? I like Eckler. That's a great choice. I think when you look at Eckler, look at him, where he's at in Washington with the Commanders, not getting a lot of touches.
Yeah.
The backup role. This is a guy that's been leading. You put him with the Niners in this scheme, and the passing game, what he can bring, because of the fact this is one of those guys that can catch the ball out of backfield, like you said, and now you have Mason, that's the bell cow that can tote it the majority of the time and get Eckler in there for 10 plays. What that does for McCaffrey, okay, now you have him on PUP, you can put him on IR for 4 weeks, make it 8, and you're in a situation where you only have the guy for a year, and what are you going to have to give up for him? A 7th round? And
not much.
Not much. You're right. I look at that, and that would be a value trade for the Niners, especially where they're at now, because you can flex Eckler, you can move him around, and then even when McCaffrey's back, you can put McCaffrey in the backfield, and you can split Eckler out and put him in a slot, and now you got a linebacker trying to guard him, and now you can still run McCaffrey, and you can vice versa. So I think that Eckler would be a good fit for this offense.
And as we move forward, look, about halfway home here on the kickoff show presented by Habas Law. If you've been wronged, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. Evan Giddings with Lorenzo, Neal. When we come back, we'll take a little bit of a deeper dive into the wide receiving core, which right now is just absolutely shot for both teams. Debo's out, Kupp's out for the Rams, along with Puka Nacua. But how much pressure then lies on number 11, Brandon Ayuk? That's where we'll move on next. And also, of course, taking your calls. If you have any predictions, if you want to weigh in on what the Niners front office should be looking to address right now. I know it's only week 3, but it's never too soon to look at how much depth you could use for a team that is trying to run it back to the Super Bowl, that is trying to win a Super Bowl. 888-957-9570 is the number. Also, the Xfinity mobile text line. Again, Lo and Evan will be back after this on the kickoff show on 95.7 The Game.
From the mind of a 2-foot-tall talking spokes puppet comes this year's biggest challenge. It's time for...
trying to tell you boys my MC rhymes. One day in the middle of the night, two dead soldiers, they got up to fight. Back to back, they faced each other. And they drew their swords and they shot each other. If you don't believe my lie is true, won't you ask the blind man who saw it too? Hey!
Low.
Hey, Cam, you set me up, baby. I had the flow, baby. I had that flow down. Uh-oh.
MC Neal. Yo, what was that? Was that brought to you by Hot City?
Hot City, baby. Hey,
Which, by the way,
fire, right?
My Lord. Okay, so I do love barbecue. It's honestly hard to find a real great one in the city of San Francisco. In my opinion, you got to go a little bit further out. You got to broaden your horizons. But Hot City, man, the links, the tri-tip, the chicken.
I had to hook you up. Okay.
You put me on today.
So, I drive up yesterday in this little town called Los Banos. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, this place called Hot City. I go every weekend on my ride up. I stop. They only open on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sunday. 3 days a week. Hot City. Their barbecue is fire. I get the coleslaw and the baked beans. I mix them together, and they got this deal called the Code 7. Will cut my legs off and call me shorty. That's tri-tip, it's chicken, it's ribs, and pulled pork and hot links. And I brought it in last night. I didn't eat it all, so I brought a little bit in.
Yeah,
and
I appreciate you.
Because it's game day. And every time you go to a tailgate, you got barbecue. So I wanted to bring, Evan, the barbecue to you. It's game day for you and I. Bang, bang, Niner game. So I wanted you to have that barbecue. And you were feeling it, weren't you, brother?
I'm fired up. Well, I'm looking at it right now. It's about halfway between here and Fresno.
Yes.
About midway. And, dude, I got to tell you, like, the Valley just has some hidden gems, and I'm glad you put me onto one of them because I did not expect that. Like, you came in last week, you hooked your boy up with a bagel, and I very much appreciate that. But this was, like, that's love, man.
Legendary.
That's love.
And that's it. It was so good, Cam, that my man said, "Lo, where'd you get this? I'm writing this down." Yeah. I'm like, no, you're not going to make that ride. That's a little too far to get the barbecue. So, you know what? I'll hook you up next week again. I'll hook you up. I'll bring your own. So, bro, you're going to get some serious eating. So let our Niners take care of business. Your boys got your back.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I was in Modesto earlier this week.
What? Down in Modesto? What you doing in the Central Valley, boy?
Because I was out to see the California League Championship. One of my buddies, he's a minor league hitting coach for the Padres single A team. So I promised I'd pull up and watch him, apparently I needed to slide through Hot City, which is not too far away.
Not too far, homie.
Not too far.
So when'd you go down to Modesto, big dog? What day?
Tuesday night. I was up there Tuesday night, yeah.
I got a great little smoke shop down there, and they got a great little sushi bar down in Modesto. Next time you let me know when you're in my neck of the woods.
It was bigger than I thought.
Baby,
They've been putting in work in Modesto.
Hey, Modesto, nice little big town, huh? You like, wow.
little big town, I like that.
It's the little big town, baby. But, hey, we know how to eat in those little big towns, baby. We know how to eat. And that's like the Niners today. Let them eat, baby.
Well, speaking of, so who do you expect to eat? By the way, we just got the official injury report. Nick Bosa, Charvarius Ward, both active. Inactives for the Niners, of course, include Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey is on IR, and then George Kittle with a hamstring, so they'll be missing their three offensive guys. But the defense, low, unlike the Rams, is whole. I mean, you got Bosa, he's back in. Charvarius Ward, your number one corner on the outside. Talanoa Hufanga makes his return to the field for the first time in 2024. This is a defense that I can envision returning to being top three in the league. But who's eating today? If we're talking about hot ones.
Yeah, I tell you, they're going to eat some Hot City today. I'm going to tell you right now, we know it's the running back. You love the way this guy's got 3 weeks in a row with 100 yards plus. So I think that this may be something that we haven't seen has any back. The Niners, probably McCaffrey, but you got to look at that up and see who's had 100 yards 3 weeks in a row. I think he does that. But I think Juszczyk gets some plays. But I'm telling you, today is the day Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk is going to eat. Look for Brandon Ayuk to have a big game. But I really believe offensively it's going to come down to the running game, and you got to have the other guys step up. But it's going to be a physical type of game, and to me, it's a field position game. Field position's everything.
Well, I don't think that Brandon Ayuk has a choice but to eat because this he's got pressure on him now. I mean, you get paid. There's expectations that come with that money.
And he hasn't met him right now. Everyone's been like, where's Ayuk? Where's Ayuk? And hey, look, Ayuk is the guy can play. We know he knows how to get open. He's going to have his day. And today, they're going to target him more. When you have all those other weapons, you don't have to necessarily say, I got to get it to Ayuk. Now, we're going to see, because the Rams are going to try to move him. The Rams are going to try to shut him down. The Niners are going to move Brandon Ayuk around a little bit today to decide man or zone so they can't double him. So they're going to do some things to get him open through scheme. So he's got to eat. And not only is he going to eat, he's got to eat often and he's got to eat a lot. So I'm looking at Ayuk, but also Mace. When you look at Jordan Mace, what he's been able to do, running the ball, he's been physical, he's been getting downhill, he's going to eat. And then we know Juszczyk is going to be big in the passing game. But in order for Juszczyk to eat like I believe he's going to eat today, the running game has to be on. So I believe with the running game, running the ball the way they can, look for my man Juszczyk to be big in the passing game as well.
Well, I do think they're going to put the ball on the ground, and that's what both of these coaches like to begin with. It's what they initiate their offense with, whether it's Sean McVay, 11 personnel, 13 personnel. They will put the ball on the ground if they can, but they're injured. And so the Niners, meanwhile, look, this is where I do look at McVay and say, if McVay last year had only Puka Nacua, he's getting 10 to 15 targets. If Cooper Kupp is available like week 1 and Puka Nacua is out, he's getting 10 to 15 targets.
No question.
Sean McVay has schemed his number 1 wide receivers open in a way that I don't know if it's because of the slow start, didn't have a preseason, not much training camp. Kyle Shanahan has not been able to get Brandon Ayuk the separation or just the availability necessary for Purdy to get him the ball. That has to change today because I'm looking around and you're looking at playmakers for the Niners. You're right. It's Mason. It's Juszczyk. And then it's Brandon Ayuk. Last week against the Vikings, 4 catches, a little bit better. Now, third time's the charm. Now needs to be the time where when that ball comes out and number 11 is on the field, it has to be towards him, and he's got to be open. I expect Kyle Shanahan to find a way to move him around because I don't think the Niners have much of a choice, to be quite honest.
Yeah, and it's simple to me. 17 points. Niners score 17, they win this ball game. That's all they need. Like you alluded to earlier, you said the defense, this is a big day for the defense. Everyone is healthy on defense. Of course, you don't have Hines 57, which is an unbelievable guy. You don't have a couple guys, but at the same sense, defense has to play premium today, and it comes down to field position. It comes down to special teams as well. But I think that 17 is the number. I think if the Niners score 17, they win this ball game. And I think Brandon Ayuk, I think he finds a way to get in the end zone. And I think Brandon Ayuk has over 100. I think he's going to have some plays. They're going to get the ball to him. Purdy knows that he needs some chunk plays, and that is the guy that's going to get your chunk plays. And here's a guy we haven't mentioned, and I know this guy, he's probably listening because he's probably an avid listener of 95.7 the game before he goes out on the field. And that's no question, Giddings, baby. What about third and Giddings? Second and Juwan. First and Juwan. Juwan Giddings has been pretty legendary. This guy has made big plays. Would have been the MVP of the Super Bowl last year. And how dare us, How dare us not mention Juwan.
That's true. Look, and again, he's not someone that's going to pop off your screen, but he's always open. I mean, he gets open in a phone booth. So
it's open in a phone booth. I like that. That was good. Good material. That was good.
Juwan Jennings is a guy that he's not going to beat you deep. He's not going to take a bubble screen to the house. But on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 5, 2nd and 8, he's a player that just finds a way to soften those spots and zones.
He slivers. I call him the snake. He's just boom. He knows how to get open. He finds his way and just catches the ball. And he's a yak after yards after contact. He's physical. He gets you fired up. He's that little energizer, but not little. He's that, and he's a big target. He's got lanes. He's got range. He can go up and get it. So he's good for this team. So be interesting how Jennings fares against the Rams teams that the defense hasn't necessarily played great. They've been giving up a lot of yards on the ground. They've been giving a lot of yards on the air. This is a Jennings game too. So like I said earlier, the other guys have to step up and play big too.
Yeah, and look, Juwan Jennings has been good for this team for quite some time, especially the first 2 weeks too. The other part about Ayuk that I find, I don't know, just a bit interesting, Lo, is he kind of put the bullseye on himself. Like, I don't think BA's a bad dude. I really like the guy. He works hard. He's never been a nuisance. He's never been a distraction. He's never really made it about himself up until this offseason. And one of the selling points, I'm going to run this by you. One of the selling points to me of him getting the contract that he deserved and eventually received from the Niners was, well, I'm the most efficient wide receiver in football. I just don't get the targets. I don't get the volume that a CeeDee Lamb gets or an A.J. Brown gets or a Tyreek Hill gets. But if I got the 180 that CeeDee Lamb gets, I could put up those numbers. I'm already second-team All-Pro, and I only had 75 catches last year. If you put me in this 100, 120 range, I'll be that guy. Well, now I'm looking around, and over the course of 17 games, he's not going to get 180 targets. But this week, that volume share is going to be up. And so I'm very curious to see what he does with it because I believe him to be one of the top 10 receivers in football. And now it's not necessarily proving that he is or isn't. I just expect him to be that guy because he always has been. And though he's been slow the first 2 weeks, I think Brock Purdy is also going to have to lean on him a little more because Purdy is going to have to do more with less. And that means the one guy who has been his number one target moving the ball down the field in prior years, that's number 11. That's where Ayuk has got to make that money, man.
Yeah, Purdy's going to have to be dirty, and he's going to have to get downright. Him and Ayuk is going to have to get on the same page, and they have to get on the same page early. You look at Brandon Ayuk. He talked about how efficient he is. He's talking about, look, I'm one of the most high efficient running receivers in the league if I have the opportunity. And I happen to agree with Ayuk. Ayuk does run great routes. He knows how to separate. He knows how to catch the ball, and he knows how to get open. He's slippery in his route running. He's very deceptive, and he's hard to cover. He knows how to stack guys, and once he has them stacked, he makes some pretty prolific catches. So I want to see if he can do that today. He can do that. We've been waiting for this guy to step up and make these plays. I think he will because this is a game today where Ayuk, they need him. See, the last 2 weeks, did they need him? You like to have him, but you were able to still play well without Ayuk. Even last week, Debo was big in the catching game, receiving game. It wasn't like they didn't throw the ball and throw it well, but now Ayuk is needed in this game.
888-957-9570 is the number. This is the kickoff show. If you got predictions, if you got some things that you want to see, is it about Ayuk? Is it about Purdy? Could it be Kyle Shanahan? I know that last week, a lot of people were frustrated with the play calling of Shanahan, were frustrated with the game script, so to speak, kind of going away from the run at inopportune times, maybe putting Purdy in disadvantageous positions. You know, I don't think that Sean McVay is somebody that is defensively as creative as, say, Brian Flores. What he does is on the offensive side of the ball, but Kyle Shanahan has had McVay's number in the regular season, and a big reason why is because of what he's able to scheme up offensively. And so I don't think that we're going to see Purdy struggle as much this week, number one, because I don't think the Rams' defense is as good as the Vikings, but number two, he's not going to have to worry about that crazy scheme that Brian Flores has thrown at him.
Yeah, the difference is Brian Flores could do it because he has the players to run that type of scheme, the personnel to do it. The Rams don't have the personnel to do it. You can try because this is a copycat league. Teams see what other teams do against you to frustrate you, and they will try to do that. But can they play man coverage on Debo like they did? Can you run that type of zone? Do you have the athletes on that side of the ball that can get to the quarterback and put pressure on him to make Brock get rid of the ball and throw it ill-advised throws and throw it into double and triple coverage? I don't think the Rams have that on their team and on that side of the ball. So I don't think you can play that type of defense. You can do it sprinkle in because they will try to sprinkle some things in because they had success against the Niners. They're going to try to sprinkle that in. But the question is, can they have that type of success and can they do it often? I think it's the latter.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why Kyle Shanahan, no matter who's been his quarterback, no matter what his roster's been, is 10-5 all-time against Sean McVay. Now, the biggest loss, of course, comes in the NFC Championship game, the 2021 season. But, you know, the Niners have generally had the Rams' number, even when the Rams have been extremely good. So Kyle Shanahan with his former protege and now one of the brilliant offensive minds in the league, Sean McVay, you know, a battle of the minds, so to speak, this week. I also think we do see somewhat of a bounce-back game from Kyle Shanahan. I don't think he felt like the offense was in a comfortable place last week. Clearly, they did not look as good against a Vikings team. But the one thing that they did do, Lo, which has been pretty, synonymous with Kyle Shanahan, is controlling the clock. You know, one of the things that was so, I think, drastic between the two teams last week in favor of the Niners was the fact that the Niners had the ball for 35 minutes. The Vikings did not have the ball for that much time, but they were just so explosive in the passing game, a la 97-yard touchdown pass from Sam Darnold to Justin Jefferson, that they didn't have to run the ball as much until the end of the game when they chewed clock, had those 3 third-down conversions on the final drive to put the game away. Kyle Shanahan still, no matter what, is going to make sure that the clock is on his side, and that's something that I think will work a little bit better against McVay than, say, Minnesota.
Yeah, in that one play, that was bombs away. You look at Sam Darnold hit, one of the best receivers in Jefferson in the league.
It's been the best throw of the season so far.
Yeah, and that was the biggest throw of the year. I think Carr has some bombs like that too. Oh, yeah. Carr's had a couple this year, but that was a big play, and I think that set the tone. And because your defense were playing pretty good, now you hold them down there on the 1 yard line, and now you punt. That's a field position. And that's why I really believe this game, too, today, because of the lack of weapons, is field position. The Niners down there, you can't give up a 97-yard touchdown bomb. You have to play defense, and you say, look, I can't let them get one first down, because if I can hold them down there on the 5-yard line, they're punting from their end zone. You're going to get the ball on the 50 at least. So if you get the ball in your 50, you get one first down, you're in field goal range. So you have to realize field position, especially when you don't have your weapons and things. That's why special teams today, to me, is going to be a premium. Because if you can flip the field and change, flip the field and play field position and also get a couple turnovers here and there, that just simplifies and make the game go your way. And that's what's going to happen for the Niners. Can't necessarily be about Brandon Ayuk going for 1,000 yards today and him and Purdy lighting it out. No, this is about field position. This is about being safe. This is a way to find a way to win the game, to get the 2-1. You can't afford to lose this game. I got Arizona on the line. I got Seattle on the line. This is a game. The Rams and the Niners are both early in this season. This is a must win for both these teams. Even despite of the Rams being beat up, in spite of the Rams being beat up and guys are out and all the injuries, you're going to get their best today, because if they lose today, it's hard to be 0-3 and try to get in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. If you lose and get to 0-3, you're miserable at practice. And guess what? You have 15, 14 more games left. The year is going to be long, and it turns into hell. Trust me, I've been in that situation. I played on teams or you start out 0-3 and 0-4. And if you start off 0-3 and 0-4 and you're on a team like that, let me tell you, you might as well just pack up the bags and your season's over, and you have to fight. Those are the years when you're 0-3 or 0-4, you start off 1-2. It's tough, man, because you're just saying, God, can we get back to 500? You lose today, you're the Niners. Now you're 1-2. You're like, God, how do we get back to 500? Yeah. Now you win the following week. Okay. Now you're 2-2. You're like, okay, how can we get on the plus side? It makes the season long. You start off 0-4. The Rams looking down the barrel of being 0-3. I got to win 3 games just to get to even. It makes your season. And now mentally you start to have this battle that you're fighting with. And that's the thing that's hard for players. And it's a long season. And so now teams are licking their chops saying, that's a win. That's a win. And they're going to give you a little bit more. They're going to expect a little bit more. They're going to fight a little bit harder. You look at a team today that's playing, that you're talking about different teams that are playing, that their playoff hopes and aspirations and stuff on the line. Let's head over to Tampa, a team that's at home that just beat 2 kind of playoff teams, beat Detroit, won their first game, that are in a team that thinks it's going to be, fighting for a playoff hope, that's looking at the Saints saying, we got this. And you're down to Denver 21-0? Because Denver understood. Denver's seeing, hey, look, if we go down 0-3, it's tough. So them teams today that have 2 losses, they're fighting for their season. I think that's a really good point, is that this is going to be a desperate Rams team today, because if you always use the line of you're even, you're leaving. Well, if you ain't even in terms of standings, you're leaving the postseason picture. You are going to be leaving the postseason picture, and that's what's on the line for the Rams today. Because you're right, 0-3 is such a hole, and obviously it's a long year, but at the same time, you can lose seasons early. It gets early late as far as the NFL season is concerned. And if you're the Niners, the last place you want to be is staring up at 500, or staring up at trying to get to 500. I mean, moving to 2-1, it would be such a psychological boost for this group, especially considering the injuries that they suffered. And as much as the Rams have dealt with their own, their own absences, it doesn't matter. It does not matter how you win football games as long as you do so. The other thing that you mentioned I thought was interesting about special teams, the importance of special teams. And as we kind of wrap up our segment here, the guy that no one has talked about yet this season, because all he's done in his job, is Jake Moody. Yeah. He's 7 of 7, has a couple of 50-yard field goals. And for a guy that was taken in the 3rd round very high as a kicker last season, had a missed extra point in the Super Bowl. I know people put a lot on his doorstep throughout the season. The missed game winner last season against Cleveland. He's looked like he's going to be this kicker for a very long time, and that pick was absolutely the perfect spot to go get him. Yeah, you had to, because, kudos to Gold, what he was able to do. Robbie Gold, 15, 16 seasons. I mean, the guy was amazing. You had to go out and get a kicker, and you had to make sure this guy you couldn't miss, because points in the National Football League is a premium. And today, my friend, it's going to be a premium points.
Absolutely. Move along here on the kickoff show on 95.7 The Game, presented by Habas Law. If you are wronged, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. Look, I mean, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, they are two people that are synonymous with offense. They are brilliant. They are creative minds, and they're going to have to get into their bags today because Christian McCaffrey is on IR. Deebo Samuel, George Kittle both ruled out with a calf and hamstring injury. Cooper Kupp is out with an ankle injury. Puka Nacua is on IR. Kyron Williams only has 30 carries for 75 yards so far this season. The run game has been non-existent. I also think that the Matthew Stafford versus Brock Purdy conversation is something worth digging into. The kind of conflicting physical ability, but both cerebral. Matthew Stafford, part of me, has been the veteran he's won a Super Bowl. He's taken his team to the mountaintop. Brock Purdy's trying to get his team there. How do they kind of compare and contrast? And then we can also kind of spread things out, go a little bit league-wide as far as, you talked about teams that are 0-2 looking at 0-3. Well, who are the teams that need to panic at this point? Not just the teams that are playing right now that are down, but teams that we're looking at across the league that have yet to get underway. Who are the teams that right now, their season might be on the line this week? I think the Los Angeles Rams are one of them because I think they are in panic mode. But we'll be back after this on 95.7 The Game on the kickoff show with more of the 49ers and Rams coverage coming up. 1:25 kick at SoFi Stadium. That's Lorenzo Neal. My name is Evan Giddings, and we're back after this.
So what are you reading?
I'm checking out the ratings on the new TVs, and it looks like Samsung.
Okay. All eyes on me.
Now back to the kickoff show on 95.7 The Game.
J-Hog, all eyes on me, homeboy. Hot City is the place to be. Me and J-Hog rolling through town, getting some BBQ all day. I'm going to stop. I'm going to leave it alone because I'm running out the things to say. All eyes on me. J-Hog, you like that? J-Hog, Balbooski the dog. Get at us, boy. 95.7 The Game. Your boy, Low Neal and E on the turntable. We making it happen. Hey!
The incomparable Lorenzo Neal, everybody. By the way, all eyes, whether it's on Hot City, all eyes on Fresno, all eyes on San Francisco.
Bang, bang, Niner gang.
And all eyes on SoFi Stadium. About a little less than an hour away from kickoff. 125, Rams 49ers, week 3. Niners with a chance to go to 2-1. Rams trying to avoid going 0-3. You know, it's funny, Lo, because we're watching some of these 10 a.m. games and just kind of keeping our eyes on some of the themes and what's going on. And I thought you brought up a fantastic point just about the CBS game, the Chargers and the Steelers. That is a physical playoff atmosphere like football game between those two teams trying to knock each other's head off. And in my opinion, that's the kind of game that the Niners need to turn this into, because I do believe that defense with Bosa, he's active, nursing a rib injury. Ward is going to be active in this game. Hufanga is back off his ACL. This is a team that can dictate the tempo of this football game with how physical they can be.
No question. And you saw that watching the Steelers game. The Steelers have beaten up the Chargers. Game 20-10. Steelers are up. You watch this game. Both teams, a heavyweight fight. Body blow. Chargers start trying to throw the ball. Lose the field position because it's 3 and out. They punt the ball. Give the Steelers a short field. Physical, running the ball. Now Najee, they had him bottled up. 8 carries, 10 yards, something like that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now, 20-yard run, 15-yard, because the body blows are starting to take effect because the Chargers failed to run the ball efficiently and effectively. And that's what this game is about today. You're not talking about you're not talking about the Rams having the defense that these teams have, but the Niners do. That's how you have to inflict your pain. Body blow, wear the Rams out with the body blows. Beat them up, make them one-dimensional, make this a physical type of game, and you will win. And you will win running away 17-3, 17-6. Mm-hmm. This is a game the Niners win by double digits, and the Niners only get to 17. I don't think the Rams can score more than 9 points. The inefficiency on offense, the inability to run the ball, you have to beat them up, play field position, make the Rams have long, sustainable drives, and they can't do it.
Well, and the reason why it's going to be easier than ever to beat up the Los Angeles Rams, with all due respect, is because there's no Aaron Donald. There's no big boy in the middle anymore to wreak havoc upon your interior offensive line. And that's a future Hall of Famer. That's a Super Bowl champion. That is a guy that has given the 49ers nightmares for the better part of a decade and is one of the most gifted defensive players to ever play that position and grace a gridiron. But as a result of him not being there, and I'm not saying he's the only reason the defense has struggled this season. They're a young group. They're still growing. They don't have a ton of talent on that side of the football. But not having to work through Aaron Donald, to me, also makes this an easier task for the Niners to get gritty, to get grimy, and try and attack them in the trenches.
No question, because when you had a guy like Aaron Donald, you had to put 2 hats on this guy. You had to double team this guy and tray up to the ninth linebacker. You had to say, look, we got to move Aaron Donald because he's going to beat the double team. He's going to slip and be so disruptive, even though he's small. And you watch now, you're the Niners. You can beat this team up. You can play physical bully ball and you can wear them down. That's what it's going to come down to today. How is the Niners up front? How are they going to get in this dogfight and wear them out? You're watching, man. We're watching this game in and out, watching this Charger game. 2 physical teams, and they just knocked out the quarterback because you made the Chargers one-dimensional. If the Niners can make them one-dimensional, and that means pound them, beat them up, and make them beat you by air and say, we're going to take away the run game, this game gets ugly, and it gets ugly quick. That's what the Niners have to do. Make this Ram team one-dimensional and beat them up and make it ugly. Make this a heavyweight fight. And guess what? The Rams just don't have enough power to hit the Niners in the body. Even though the Rams, this is desperate. We talked about some teams that are playing for their season today. The Rams happen to be one of those teams that are playing for their season today. And guess what? The Niners understand if they don't win this game, they're in a must. They now put themselves behind the 8 ball as well.
That's Lorenzo, Neal. Evan Giddings with you on the Kickoff Show presented by Habas Law. If you've been wronged, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. Let's open up the phone lines. 888-957-9570 is the number. Let's go out to the 707. Talk to our guy RJ in Fairfield. RJ, what's happening, my man? How you feeling?
What's up, guys? I don't know if you remember me, but I called 5 minutes before the game last week, and I told you them about them Vikings, man. But I got to.
You did. You did. I remember.
Yep. I'm a little nervous today. There's no excuses today. We should win this game, but I'm a little nervous for Brock Purdy because if he does not have a game, it's gonna be lined up. Like I don't know if he's the quarterback of the future, guys. That's where I'm going with it. If we win this game, it's because of Jordan Mason and Jawan Jennings or somebody. But
hang on. Hang on. Don't go nowhere. So you believe that Brock Purdy has to be legendary today? Do you believe this guy needs to throw for 250 to beat the Rams, in your opinion?
I think he has to. Yes. Yes, because there are no excuses. Look, defensively, the Rams have all these injuries. Their pass rush, a bunch of no names, and they don't have no defensively. They don't have no big names either. Come on, this is a no excuse for Brock Purdy. I know we have some injuries. But
agreed. I agree with you.
If you want to pay that dude $60 million, if he's worth $60 million, man, come on, he has to go out.
But don't you?
Legendary.
But don't you think though that, like you just said, Jordan Mason in the running game and special teams and defense? So why does he need to throw the ball over the field when they are going to be able to dominate in the trenches in time of possession, do the things they need to do? So why do you think he needs to be that great today, and not necessarily be a game manager?
No, I get what you're saying, Lo. But yeah, you're right. If we do run a game, there's no point in passing if the run game is working.
That's all I'm saying. So so I'm with you. Here's the deal. It's no excuses. I don't care if the Rams give them their best. They should win this game, and that's why I said 17, because the Rams probably won't score over 9. I'm with you. I just don't. Only thing I'm just asking, you think that Brock needs to play a great game? I don't think so. I just think he needs to be efficient today because you're more of a dominant team. Anyways, I didn't mean to scare you. You're great, but
I don't know. Look, I'm with RJ in the sense that
too.
This is a no excuses football game. You should go out and beat the living S out of the Los Angeles Rams. But to your point earlier, Lo, this is also a desperate Rams team, and that's why I'm not necessarily just looking at Brock Purdy to deliver victory to the 49ers. Their strength right now in this football game, to me, where they have a clear-cut advantage, is on defense and on special teams. And if you win 2 of the 3 phases and you are even on offense, then you should win this football game.
No question. And that's all I was saying. The point that I'm making as I'm glancing up and watching the Steelers, just run the ball down the Chargers' throat. The end of the game, it was they're 20-10, and look what the Steelers are able to do. This is what should be the Niners' blueprint today. Evenly matched kind of game. And at the end of the game, it's just too much run. It's too much power. It's too much beef. It's too much consistency. It's too much of an attitude. They get downhill and they smack them around. That's what needs to happen. All 3 phases a day should be in the Niners' favor. In spite of the Rams in a desperate situation, this is a game where talent, ability should make this game easier for the Niners to sway it to their side of the spectrum and early. You can't let this team make mistakes. You can't make a bunch of mistakes and give them hope and let them stick around, because if you do, now anything can happen. This is not a game that the Niners play around because you can't afford to, because of the injuries, because of all the things that are going on. You have to get rid of this team early and you will make them quit. They're on the verge of breaking. Kick the front door in and make them quit, make them run, make them hide, and this game can be over early.
888-957-9570 is the number. Do you think that it's all squarely on the shoulders of Brock Purdy? I do think he needs to have a good game today, but to me, the one number that needs to be a 0 is turnovers. 0 INTs, 0 fumbles, and I don't see how the Niners don't beat the Rams today. if Brock Purdy takes care of the football, he takes care of this football game. I don't think he has to throw for 300. I don't think it's got to be $150 to Ayuk.
No.
I think he's got to keep them ahead of the sticks, turn and burn with Mason, and let this defense absolutely feast upon a Rams offensive line that is decimated, that doesn't have any weapons for Matthew Stafford to throw the ball to, and that, quite frankly, is going to be off the field for the majority of this football game if the script goes the Niners' way. So, again, 888-957-9570. If you think that Brock Purdy needs to do more, what he has to prove, I'm not so sure it's all on today. We'll have another discussion another week, but as for what they need to do to win today, I'm not sure it's on 13. I do want to go out to Vegas, talk to our guy Stephen Lowe. Stephen wants to get in on the kickoff show here on 95.7 The Game. Steve, how are we feeling about the Niners today?
Oh, I'm confident. How's you guys' day going?
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. I just wanted to talk about that last call, like this double standard on Purdy. So if Purdy goes out and loses today, he's not the man of the future. But if we go out there and win, it's because of somebody else, not because, like, no matter what, Purdy can't get credit. If we win, it's you need all those guys to win. If we lose, it's, well, you don't have those guys out there to win. Like, why this double standard on him? You take away any other quarterback, receiver one, RB one, tight end one for a game, and you're like, well, he was missing 3 of his starters. No wonder he struggled. Purdy, it's like,
I agree with you,
them to be good.
brother. Yeah. That's a great call. I totally agree with you, and that's why we talked about. Me and Evan was talking about the efficiency of Purdy today. It doesn't mean to be 300 yards. Doesn't mean to be 250. It doesn't mean throwing the ball all over the field. I want to see how he manages the game. See, that's what great quarterbacks can do. You had a guy by the name of Tom Brady. When you think about the games that sometimes that he'd win, and times it still like, man, they would only score 20 points or 17 points, and they'd find a way to win because Brady controlled the clock. He'd get them in 3rd and short, he'd get the first down, keep the clock moving, and then he would punt the ball when he needed to and play field position. And then he would dare teams to blink. I want to see how Purdy handles that part of the game. I want to see him take the clock up and, with 2-3 seconds left on the clock, snap the ball, be able to win on 1st and 2nd down. Let's see how he orchestrates the team. Let's see how, because he doesn't have all these weapons, let's see how he controls. Let's see how he plays field position. Let's see how he not put the defense in bad place and put them in harm's way. Let's see how Purdy operates that. That's what a quarterback that understands what he's dealing with. You look at the Steelers today. Here's a game that we know we look at Herbert, Justin Herbert. Herbert is a better quarterback than Fields.
Of course.
He's not even close. Throw the balls away. But why was Fields able to win? Fields, more efficient, had better protection. He did the smart things, took what the defense gave him. Dink, dunk. He didn't have to go and be crazy. When he was in Chicago, he had to run. He had to do everything because he didn't have the talent around him. Now you're putting with a Steelers team that's saying, we don't need you to go out and win games. We need you to go out and manage games and be efficient. And now the Steelers are 3-0 with the guy that should be a backup, a guy that everyone feels is not a great quarterback. They say he's a great athletic ability, has amazing athletic talent. But why now is he on the Steelers with one of the highest proficiency rate passing the ball? Why is he now efficient throwing the ball? Why is he now a good quarterback all of a sudden? What happened? He's in the system. So now he's a guy in the system. So now he's a system quarterback, and now he's – come on. That's what people do. If you can operate the system and play at a high level, guess what? That means that kudos to you. Come on, Dak Prescott gets $61 million, the highest paid quarterback, and he goes out there and plays like a chump. And by the way, Evan, that was your pick last week.
Yes, it was.
I took the Chargers. I won everyone money, and then you made me jump on Dak Prescott because he's the highest paid quarterback in the league, and the guy's a bum. He throws the ball to the other team. Why did you do that to me, Evan? Why?
Oh, Lo, I can't tell you because I honestly didn't believe in the New Orleans Saints. That's what I didn't believe in. It wasn't as much about the Cowboys. And it's funny because we're looking around the league, and it's not just the Chargers Steelers, man. Like, I'm looking at the rest of these games, and there is a path to victory for the Niners that doesn't include Brock Purdy lighting up the scoreboard the way you want him to. The Philadelphia Eagles are showing me that I didn't have reason to believe in the New Orleans Saints. They are currently leading 7-6. That is a game in which Saquon Barkley has gotten the ball 20 times for 150 yards. That is a game in which Jalen Hurts has managed the game in front of him. I'm looking at the Denver Broncos, who, by the way, would have been my pick of the week. We didn't get to it too early.
Oh, that's your fault. That's your fault.
That was my squad.
Then what's your another pick? Give us a pick. Make up. Don't go that. Hey, you look.
I got my pick coming for you a little bit.
Okay.
All
right.
Little later.
All right. I'm sorry. I got excited. I'm sorry.
Bo Nick's about to get his first victory in Tampa. I was talking to you. That's what's going to happen. But he's managing the game. And to call people a manager seems to be such a negative, a pessimistic type of title that we bestow upon quarterbacks. It's not if you're winning football games. And I know that everyone wants their quarterback to throw for 400 yards and throw for four touchdowns. Let me tell you what, the last 2 years, Patrick Mahomes, statistically speaking, has not been anywhere near his career highs. But what does he do? He understands when he's got to turn it on, when he's got to put the pedal to the metal, and that's where Purdy, I do think, needs to take a next step if the game is not going his way. But this is a game today. We're talking about week 3. We're talking about the Los Angeles Rams, 125, week 3, SoFi Stadium. What does he need to do to win this football game? He needs to trust his team because he doesn't have his full complement of weapons out there. And that, to me, is not reason to throw the ball more. That's more of a reason to run the football, to lean on your defense, to take points when they're available to you, and beat the crap out of a Rams team that has half their team seemingly on the IR.
Yes, and that's what the Steelers did today. They said, look, we don't need to throw the ball over the park. 1 yard rushing, 3, 4, all of a sudden 20. If you can, when you have a dominant defense, fans out there, Niner fans, when your defense can be dominant, and today is a game they can be dominant, play the odds, punt the ball on 4th down. Don't go for it on 4th and inches when you're on your own 40-yard line. Punt the ball because they're not good enough. You're not playing against a team that you have to score on every single possession. Don't take chances today. This is a game that you tell your quarterback, don't take chances. Take what the defense gives you. We're good enough, and that's what you have to do. That's why the Steelers and Tomlin over the last several years, they're always in games. They're always playing great because they take what the defense gives them. They play consistent. They say, look, this is what we're going to do, and that's what the Niners have to do. This is a game today. You just play football. You go out there and play sound, fundamental football. Don't turn it over, win the turnover battles, win on special teams, win the field position, and you're 2-1, and you're like, look, get the other guys back healthy. That's what you need. This is not a game. We got to go score 50. Brock Purdy, you got to cut him loose. Relax, as Aaron Rodgers said, relax. And by the way, Aaron Rodgers got that team back on. My biggest disappointment, I got to give it to you real quick because I know we got to get. It's the Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens. You are 0-2. Come on, Harbaugh. I'm shocked. And this is a must-win situation for the Ravens. To me, the Ravens, 2 teams in that same conference, same vein, and the Bengals, they have to have their foot on the gas. 2 biggest disappointments for me.
I think the biggest disappointment for me is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Ooh, good one.
Jacksonville is a team that since they made the postseason 2 years ago has been expected to take the next step. Trevor Lawrence got paid this offseason. They lost his top receiver, but they got him some defensive line help a la Eric Armstead. This is a good defense in Jacksonville, decent running game. They cannot put it together. And Trevor Lawrence has not been the golden boy since he was taken number 1 overall in Trey Lance's draft to take this franchise to the next level. They went on and got him a quarterback whisperer at head coach in Doug Peterson, and he has not been able to win enough football games, in my opinion, to believe that he is their franchise guy as of now. Could that change? Sure. But so far this season, 0-2, that's unacceptable to me from the Jaguars. And then not based on expectation, but based on performance, so far this season, it's been the Tennessee Titans. For the reasons that you mentioned earlier, Lo, that's a team that should be 2-0 if your quarterback simply takes care of the football and doesn't make dumb bleep decisions that his head coach is going to rip him for during the middle of the game and at the podium. Will Levis, if he's Malik Willis, is 2-0 right now. And so based on expectations, to me, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars. Based on performance, the most disappointed team is by far the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, and I think I'm with you. I think that when you look at the biggest teams with biggest aspirations and the teams that has overperformed, I'm not saying overperformed, but the biggest surprises and probably going to be the only team after today in the NFC undefeated, the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings probably going to be 3-0 today. Biggest, I think people, if someone said, hey,
that is a big surprise.
Yeah, Minnesota's 3-0 in the NFC, and that's the only team in the NFC is going to be undefeated. You would have took that bet. Minnesota give you the field?
But to me, that's also because, and again, we saw it last week against the Niners.
Sam Darnold, baby.
Well, they've been the most buttoned-up team.
They have.
They've been disciplined.
Very
They
disciplined.
haven't hurt themselves. And Sam Darnold in prior years has been somewhat of a turnover artist. He hasn't really done it. I know he threw the pick against Warner, but in general, he's taken care of the football and allowed this defense under Brian Flores to absolutely feast. To me, they've been a massive surprise this season, and they're also about to knock off another pretty damn good young quarterback in C.J. Stroud. So it's not just what they have done to Purdy. It's what they've done to all three now of their opponents. The other big surprise to me, and actually they just took the lead, I think, is the New Orleans Saints. It's quite frankly what Derek Carr has become under Clint Kubiak, a Kyle Shanahan understudy, and how they have exploded offensively. Today, not necessarily the same case against the Eagles, but the New Orleans Saints were not a team to me that I expected to start the season 3-0, but also just generally looked the way that they did.
Yeah, New Orleans Saints. I thought I had them losing today against Philly. Thought Philly squandered an opportunity to win last week. Saquon makes that catch. You run out the clock. You win that game. So I thought they were, hey, look, we can find a way to win. But you look at the Saints. Kudos to Carr. I mean, hitting the Michael Jackson. I mean, hit the. I mean, you watch him take them down there and score and do the little Michael Jackson. I love that guy, by the way. Where is he from? Fresno, Bakersfield. I went to Fresno State. I mean, you love Carr. Guys put him out. You get rid of him. You run him out of the Raiders, run him out of the organization, and now he goes there down there to New Orleans, place where I played, place where I hung my hat in New Orleans, down there, 81 Shield. Shout out New Orleans. With them Super Saints. You look at what he's been able to do and weather the storm. And look at this guy throwing bombs, very, very efficient and beating Philadelphia right now. The Saints, huge surprise. Minnesota and the Saints, two big surprises. Disappointment, like I said. I'm more with the Ravens. I understand you said the Titans, but who does the Titans have as a quarterback? When you're talking about, even when you say Carolina disappointment, but who are they? Did you expect much out of them? When you look at the Ravens and you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, these are two teams that you got to say is way more of a disappointment. Jacksonville, I can throw them in there, but when you look at the Cincinnati and the Ravens, what has Jacksonville done? The Ravens and Cincinnati, when you think about those two teams the last couple of years, they've been in the mix. And for those two teams to find a way to be 0-2, I think those two, to me, is just head and shoulders. Even though Jacksonville, you expect more out of them, I'm just disappointed.
I'm with you. We gave out our biggest surprises, our biggest disappointments of the season. We return for our final short segment on the other side, and we're taking your calls, 888-957-9570. We're taking your predictions for the 49ers and Rams. 125 kick, SoFi Stadium, Week 3. The Niners trying to improve to 2-1. The Rams trying to get their first win of the season. Final segment on the other side, we'll give out our predictions and final keys to the game. That's Lorenzo, Neal. I'm Evan Giddings on the Kickoff Show on 95.7 The Game.
Are you curious about who offers the best deals on top-rated Samsung, LG, and Sony TVs? The answer is surprising. It's not online, and it's not the warehouse clubs. The best deals on top-rated TVs are at Video Only. Don't believe it? Then check out the trade-in deals at Video Only. How about $500 for your old TV? Try doing that online. Before you buy that new TV, drop into Video Only. If you don't, you'll be sorry.
Do you often worry you left the garage door open? With a LiftMaster garage door opener powered by MyQ, you'll never worry again. You can control, secure, and monitor your garage from your smartphone anytime, from anywhere through the MyQ app. As an authorized LiftMaster dealer, Ace's Garage Door Repair and Installation has smart openers designed for your needs, including belt drive motors for ultra-quiet operation, integrated camera for live video, streaming, and battery backup to let you in when the power is out. Trust Ace's Garage Door Repair and Installation for top-notch service and unbeatable reliability. Whether you need a quick fix, a complete replacement, or a brand new installation for your garage door or garage door opener, our skilled technicians are here to get the job done right. With competitive prices, a commitment to quality, and diamond certification, Aces has you covered. Call today at 855-588-2237 or visit acegd.com. That's acegd.com. Aces Garage Door Repair and Installation, where your garage door is our priority.
At Shane Company, our engagement rings are the perfect blend of design, function, and beauty, each one a unique work of art. We meticulously craft our bridal jewelry in our jeweler's workshop to the highest standards, expertly setting each diamond by hand, ensuring the structure is perfectly balanced, and sizing everything for the perfect fit. Shane Company offers a free unmatched lifetime warranty because your engagement ring is an heirloom that was made to last. You'll cherish your ring today, tomorrow, and forever. Shane Company, your friend and jeweler.
when back to the office means back in traffic.
There's a car facing sideways, so traffic is slowing down as you approach the scene.
You can rely on your local Honda dealer's traffic center.
It's not looking good right now. We've got a crash.
From your traffic leader, KCBS.
Kickoff show on 95.7 The Game.
All right, final segment on the kickoff show. I know you're ready to bust a rhyme, Low.
I was thinking about it, but you know what? No, final segment.
You already gave the people two of them today.
I gave the people too much. I'm too fired up. This is my third cup of coffee, cup of joy. You got me fired up. Me and you, we keep meeting in the break room. We grab our coffee. You know, we're watching football. We're fired up. I took you to Hot City. I mean, brought you back some barbecue from Hot City. I'm hanging out with my boy J Hall, Casanova Babuski the dog from Leemore, my hometown. My buddy wrote up. He said, "Lo, I want to see what you do in the city. I'm going to ride it with you." So me and him on the way yesterday, stopped at Hot City. I said, "I'm get a little bit for my you're my guy." And I took my boy to, Hot City, went to high school together, played on the same football team together. He said, "Man, let's go to the city." So he's in town today, kind of hanging out, listening to radio, watch the TV stuff. So my boy J-Hawk, shout out to you, man. Thanks for rolling with your boy Lo Neal. You know you're my guy. And he's a big Niner big Niner fan. He's got the Niners winning. He's got them winning easy today.
Well, I was going to say, before we get to our final predictions and kind of the keys of the game. I do want to go through this 1 o'clock slate. Look, every single week we give out a little money. Last week, Lowe was on the Chargers. He got you some free cash. I lost a lot of cash for myself and others that were on the Cowboys last week. But we got some games to go through in the 1 o'clock slate. And so before we get to the Niners, we'll end with them. Again, week 3, SoFi Stadium, Niners at Rams. That's a -6.5 line. But first, Lowe, we'll start with, let's start in Seattle. Start the Pacific Northwest, about to kick off in a minute here. Seattle's -4 at home against the Dolphins. Who do you like in that one?
Tua's not playing. Seattle's fighting the 12th man, the crowd. I'm going to go Seattle. Tease that down to 2.5. Take Seattle. I don't know if they cover by 4, but I'm going to go with Seattle.
See, I like the Dolphins to win outright in this game, and it's just because...
No Tua? You still like them?
No Tua, no problem. I like Skylar Thompson as a running quarterback, and that's the one thing the Seahawks defense has not been able to do is stop the run. I think they've given up 270, 280 on the ground, so that would be my upset outright money line pick.
Okay, understood.
And then moving on to Dallas. Dallas hosting the Ravens, -1.5.
Damn.
Ravens -1.5. 0-2 team so far.
Damn, this one's hard to take because Dallas Cowboys to me are the most inconsistent team, but the Ravens right behind them.
Seriously.
But it's something about hardball, something about we'll get to see the kind of men. I don't think that Dallas have the mental fortitude to find a way to win. This is going to be the Ravens' finest hour. Because if the Ravens lose this, it's over. I want to see can Harbaugh galvanize these men. For that reason, and that reason only, I'm taking the Ravens on the road to win this game.
I want to see him get King Henry the football. I mean, this is a guy that has not had as many carries as we've been accustomed to seeing, even at the age of 30. And the theme that we have seen rewarded throughout the first set of games has been running the football, whether it's Pittsburgh who beat the Chargers, whether I'm looking at Saquon Barkley who just went ahead with his second touchdown of the game against New Orleans, Vikings giving the ball, Aaron Jones cracking the 100-yard mark. Running the football has been rewarded. Taylor for the Colts, 2 touchdowns on the ground today. Give the ball to King Henry, and I think the Ravens win this game by at least 2 points. And then we got I think quietly the sexiest matchup of the 1 o'clock slate. Cardinals at home after demolishing the Rams. Could have beat the Buffalo Bills week 1. They're hosting the Lions. Lions -3 on the road.
Yeah, man, that one. I'm taking calamari. I love calamari. I love it a lot. I think that Arizona at home, if this was in Lion territory, I would take the Lions. I like Arizona. Arizona's going to challenge the Niners this year for this NFC West. I like Calamari at home to beat the Lions and Dan Campbell.
I do like the Lions in this game, but the 3 points to me is actually a big field goal in this game because I think what we're going to have set up next week, of course, we're looking ahead, don't necessarily have to, but the Niners got a big challenge coming in with the Arizona Cardinals. So I like the Lions in this game, which sets up a very feisty Arizona group next week for the Niners, but I like Detroit covering on the road because I think they also get back to running the football, which they did not do last week against Tampa Bay. And then finally, the pièce de résistance, the main attraction, the main entree, Niners-Rams. 49ers -6.5 in L.A. against the 0-2 Rams. Both teams decimated with injury. However, Low, which side you got?
Buy it down to 5.5 and put your house on it. Go ahead and mortgage it, people. Go ahead and mortgage. I hate to say it. I know we're in a recession. I know it's tough. I know prices are high. Milk's high. Eggs is high. Everything's high.
No, you're telling me,
but if you want a chance to buy a baby pair of milk, buy a baby new pair of shoes, by golly, you load up on the Niners. Don't worry about the mule going blind. Just hold the strings and pull the line because the Niners, they cover, and the Niners take you home. I like the Niners 17-9, 17-10, 17-6. I don't think the Rams score over 9 points, so load up. It's the Niners.
Well, that's not a bad Niner game. That's not a bad call because there are 3 teams this week already. Pardon me. Yeah, 3 teams that have scored 10 points or less. The Chargers with 10 points. The Bears do have the ball and are driving, but they're down 21-9. And then the Texans mustering a mere 7 points against the Vikings. Apparently vaunted defense. I do like that. I also think that, and we're on the same page here. Our locks of the week. It's the Niners. It's Niners -6.5. It's put up or shut up. I don't see how they lose this game to the Rams. I also don't see how they don't win this game running away if they run the ball. I don't think it's all squarely on the shoulders of number 13.
I'm with you.
This is a game that they can control with their defense and with their special teams and their quarterback managing a football game against a clearly inferior opponent in St. Louis. I think the Niners move above 2-1. I think the Rams are 0-3, and I think the Niners win this game. I'll say 23-13.
I'm with you. They win it running away.
24-13.
And we haven't even talked about a guy on this team that I think he's going to play with some vengeance, and he's going to be mean and angry because he gave up a sack last week. The Eraser. 71, baby. I want to see the big fella eat. I think he's going to have some mean blocks. This guy's going to be nasty. I love the Eraser. Big Trent. This guy's going to be he's going to be just road grading people today. I can't wait for this kickoff. Special teams are going to be big. Offense is going to play great. Defense is going to play lights out. One thing that I've noticed, look, across his career, and it's still pretty young, but Brock Purdy, when he throws the ball 30 or more times as a starter, he's 4-4. When he throws it less than 30 times, he's got a near 800 winning percentage. So I don't think it's going to be Brock Purdy airing the ball out as much as people are assuming that he is. Right.
I do think that Brandon Ayuk has close to 10 catches in this game. I also think that Jordan Mason has close to 25 carries in this game. I think for a third consecutive week, he breaks the century mark. And I think this defense has at least 2 turnovers against the Rams, whether it's a pick, whether it's a fumble, I'm not sure, but they find a way to turn the ball over twice.
Yeah, Purdy doesn't have to get that dirty, but he's gonna make some things happen. He's gonna do some things with his legs. They're gonna do some play action. I think Jordan Mason's gonna be big. He's gonna walk away out here. If you said 25, I'm gonna take the over. I think it's over 25 touches a day because you're gonna run the ball down this team's throat. You're going to move them off the line of scrimmage. You got the Racer, 71, who's going to be out there running. You're going to go some 12 personnel. You're going to push guys around. You're going to go some 21 personnel, 2 backs, and Juszczyk's going to be big in the blocking game. And then, man, you're going to hit him on some play action. You're going to look for Brock Purdy. Don't be surprised if he hits him down the field, hit Brandon Ayuk on some big plays down the field because of the fact you're going to have 8-9 guys in the box. If you're the Rams, you're thinking just like we're thinking. The Rams are saying, hey, look, let's make Purdy beat you. Let's put 12 guys. Let's put 9 guys in the box. Hell, let's put 10 guys. Hell, let's put 11 guys in the box. Let's make Purdy beat you in the air. Let's make them throw the ball. And when that happens, I don't think they still can be able to stop the run. And I think play action and Brandon Ayuk, because you're going to have a single safety high, Brandon Ayuk is going to have a big game because you can't necessarily double him if you're going to move him around and then get the play action. I think Purdy has a good game, but the run game is going to make Purdy's game even more efficient and big shots down the field because of play action. And I would be remiss if we didn't talk about that man again. Giddings, baby. 3rd and Giddings.
Low and I's lock of the week. Niners -6.5. Make sure to lock into overtime as well. Right after the final whistle, right here on 95.7 The Game, Mark Grandy, Kyle Madsen, Sterling Bennett are going to be taking you post-game. Niners-Rams kicks off in just about 15 minutes here on 95.7 The Game. Also, keep it locked on YouTube because I believe Butcher Boy Joe Shasky is going to come on and do his little mini preview of this game coming up. Again, the Niners and the Rams, Week 3. The Niners trying to improve to 2-1. The Rams trying to grab their first win of the season. It's always a fun kickoff show presented by Habas Law. If you've been wronged, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. Well, just like that, Lo.
Bang, bang, Niner gang, baby.
We got to look ahead.
Let's do it.
All right, well, I look forward to talking to you next time right here on 95.7 The Game. For Lorenzo, Neal, for Cameron Williams, for everybody here in the studio, a big thank you. My name is Evan Giddings saying so long. We'll talk to you next week. And hopefully the Niners are looking at a plus 500 record low. I don't know if they can afford to lose this one. I don't think they will.
They won't. They don't. You said it's a lock of the week. It's not. I don't think they will. Me and you, this is our lock of the week. Come on. People are putting their houses. They get the college kids, the kids' college funds on this. Let's go Niners.
Right here on 95.7 The Game.
All guests on 95.7 The Game appear on the River Islands guest line.
Warriors head coach Steve Kerr now joining us on the River Islands guest line.